Hey folks, you may remember this 7-string guitar that I got from Cozart. I did a video a couple of videos back and forgot to mention that even though I thought this was pretty cool value and an interesting guitar, very light, nice fretboard too, a lot better than I was expecting from Cozart based on past experiences. Not that they're bad, but just that I had a few issues with some of their guitars and stopped buying them for a while. But I saw this and thought, why not? I mean, it's under 200 for a 7-string. Let's try it out. The one problem I had with this that I forgot to mention on that video is the strings were awful. Particularly the bottom end, the bottom 3-4 strings. Remember, this is strung for a low B, or you can do a drop A, which far too flimsy, and you couldn't get that sort of genty, riffy sound that most people use these guitars for, you know, playing in Meshuggah and stuff like that. It just sounded awful. The strings were so flappy and they had just no tone at all, and that was the stock strings that came on them. I have no idea what they were. I'm not an expert on 7-string guitars, so I did a bit of research, and I know that there are various companies that make heavy bottom, slinky top 7-string sets. Ernie Ball, D'Addario, you name it, they all do one. I heard about these Dunlop strings, and they were on sale, so I thought I'd give them a go. And they are just that. They're heavy bottom from 60 up to 10s, which is fairly standard for an electric guitar, particularly of this scale length. And I have to say that it's improved this guitar no end. After stretching the strings out and playing it, you've now got that rigid bottom 3-4 strings to give you your crunchy chords, but the top is not compromised. It's a nice gauge for getting your bends and stuff and doing your leads and things like that. So I just thought too, I don't do too many videos on strings because everybody has their own preferences, and there's not much point trying to win people over to any particular string brand, because you ask 100 guitarists what their favorite strings are, you're going to get 100 different answers. Everybody has slightly different requirements from guitar strings. So this set I thought to mention for those of you who are getting into 7-string guitar and the strings on the guitar aren't very good, which is most of the cases I've come across. So try these Dunlop Heavy Core sets. They're pretty decent. I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. Another one that I thought to mention, because I knew nothing about these strings, is there's some guitars you get, and even with the 9s and 10s on the guitar, it still feels pretty stiff, hard to bend. Or perhaps you're an older guitarist and your hands don't work like they used to, and you want to make it easier on yourself. Well, I heard about these strings and saw some videos of people swearing by them. They are Reverend Willy's Mexican Lottery brand electric guitar strings, and they are I'm not sure if he was involved in the design of this, but they are Billy Gibbons' Big Fat Texas Tone. They were developed for Billy Gibbons. They're also Dunlop, made by Dunlop, and they go from 8 to 40, so they have much slinkier and easier feeling strings, particularly on the bottom end, but I don't see any sacrifice of tone. So if you're worried about going down to an 8, if you normally play a 10 or an 11 or even a 9 and you're worried about going to an 8, that's awfully slim. These don't feel any different to the guitars that I have, mostly with 10s. I have a couple with 9s on them as well, mostly with 10s. I put this on my Yamaha Reverb Store guitar because it just felt too stiff, and it feels really good now, but I don't feel like a sacrifice in tone. Even though I'm going down to 8s, they still feel pretty substantial. I don't notice any real sloppiness. The string bends are easier, it's easier on your hands, but they still sound very much like the older strings that I had on the guitar, which I think were some D'Addario slinky, I think they were 10s. So these are sort of made to make things a bit easier for you, and a lot of people that were commenting on these, if you look at the Amazon comments on these, a lot of older folks, guys who have been playing a while, guys that have carpal tunnel or other issues with their hands, or they just want to make it easy on themselves, are swearing by these. There's a lot of good buzz on these. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's a few YouTube videos where people are stringing these up and comparing them to the strings that they've always used throughout the years, and you know, coming up with some good testimonials about these particular strings. So I thought to do a video on them because, you know, these issues sometimes come up. Both made by Dunlop. This string set here, the the heavy core, you might play metalcore with them, are 10s through 60s for 7 strings. This is a 7-string set. It's a heavy bottom, slinky top gauge strings to get the most out of your 7-string guitar and still be able to play, you know, lots of crunchy bottom stuff and some nice slinky lead stuff as well. So this set has really helped out that this 7-string, no end. And then this set right here, I'm going to buy a few of these. It's the Reverend Willy Mexican Lottery brand. They're made by Dunlop, but they're made or designed with or for Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, who's, you know, a very good blues player. And you know, if your strings feel a bit heavy, a bit hard to bend, or you're having issues with your hands, maybe consider going down to this particular gauge set, a different gauged set here that starts with an 8-string on the bottom E and then goes all the way up to a 40 on the top E. Because you know, I was worried about going down to an 8 because that, you know, is a lot slinkier than anything that I've played in the past, particularly when gigging and stuff like that. But they feel and sound really, really good. I might get a couple more sets and put them on other guitars. So I just thought to you know, share that information, and maybe some of you have had experiences with these string sets or similar sets that you would like to share in the comments, and I read all the comments and try to reply to them, so please do so. I had somebody telling me they use 7s. I've never used 7s, but you know, that they get along with 7 really super extra slinky string sets. So let me know if that's the case with you and what brand and gauge you're going to. The information's helpful. It's interesting to read what other people are doing and how they find it. I know that, you know, sort of guitar strings are sort of sacred to each guitarist, and we all have our own preferences. So I don't want to start any wars over them. I just think we should share the information. That way, if somebody's looking for a good 7-string set that gives you good tonal balance across the guitar, or a slightly lighter gauge set that doesn't lose any of the tone, but gives you a little bit less tension, particularly for string bending and stuff like that, or tapping maybe, you know, there's a good idea there. All right, folks, see you in the next video.